This is what I call the content conversion filter. On the left-hand side here, we have two things. We have content that is either broad, that goes after a lot of people, or very specific, that goes after one group of people. And on the bottom, we have content that is either viral, or it's very valuable. And so in the very first category up here, which is content that is broad and it goes viral, which is what a lot of people want. They're like, I want as many people to see my posts as possible. This is what I call entertainment. And I'm going to walk you guys through an example of each of these pieces of content, because sometimes the things that have the most views or the most comments are not the things that you actually want to run as ads. So an example of this, for any of you guys that follow Neil Dingra, he's amazing. I would recommend definitely following him if you're in our industry. But he posted this piece of content recently. And essentially what it was a piece of B-roll. It was just like a video clip of him at dinner with a bunch of like famous friends. And it says, reminder, one good connection can change your life forever, blah, 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 power of networking. Okay, this particular piece of content got 3 million views. So that's great. It got him a lot of reach. But does that mean that it's necessarily going after his target audience or the right thing to run as an ad? Not necessarily, because it's viral and it's gone after a lot of people. So what if you ran this as an ad, you're going to start going after lots of people and getting lots of DMs, but they're going to be extremely unqualified, and it's going to create a ton more work for you on the back end. Okay? The second side is the viral and specific, okay? And this is what I call attention content. Now, there is a very specific purpose of running this particular type of content, and I'm going to explain that to you in a second. So a good example of this would be Chris Smith. So for any of you guys that follow Chris Smith, he does these kind of like industry hot take pieces of content, which are like, he says the shit that we want to say, but we would never post, but we would reshare it because it's not from our account. So an example of this was a post that he said, your home is worth what a buyer will pay today, not what your neighbor sold for last year, not what Zillow says your home is worth, and not what you need to move. The market sets the price, not your feelings about your personal kitchen renovation. Okay? I love it. It's a hot take. Okay? I might not post it because it's a bit spicy. However, this was it went what I would call like industry or niche viral, and it was specific to people who are potentially home buyers or sellers, but this might not be something that's going to generate him a ton of leads, okay? What it is going to do is it's going to get a ton of exposure back to his particular page. So some types of content that you guys may already be posting in this particular category would be like, if you have a listing video, who else would be a good example? Matt Leonetti. Matt Leonetti's listing tours go crazy viral, right? They're amazing. They could potentially be something to be run as an ad, which I'll explain in a second. But they get a lot of traffic back to his page. Other things in real estate that work really well are like local restaurant tours, because you're going after, or local restaurant kind of like highlight videos. You're going after a lot of people in your local neighborhood, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're buyers or sellers. But these are pieces of content that could go neighborhood viral or industry viral, okay? So when we look at what's actually going to go and be the best pieces of content to run, we want to look at this bottom section of something that is very specific and something that is very valuable. So let me just go down here and explain this to you for 1 second. Of 18,000, 3 million, etc., this one particular piece of content that I would run as an ad every single time over the other one has 879 views. Maybe a little bit closer to what we're getting right now, yeah? This particular piece of content is from Davide, and he's one of our clients. This video was, this is what $700,000 to $800,000 gets you in Mimico, as an example, okay? So, if he was to run this as an ad, he's trying to go after people who are looking for homes in his particular neighborhood. Of all the pieces of content, this is the one that I'm going to run as a retargeting piece of content because it's for my specific audience, and it's very valuable. So for him, the call to action, which we'll talk about in a second, can say something like, hey, if you're looking at potentially buying a home for $700,000 to $800,000 in Mimico, comment the word Mimico and I'll send you a list of my favorite homes that are on the market right now. That is going to generate inbound conversations that are qualified because we have pre-qualified them and called them out in the actual video and in the actual caption itself. So even though this one only has 879 views, the 879 views are more potent in terms of who you're going after for your target audience and will actually generate conversations that are likely to convert into business. 3 million is going to generate a tremendous amount of work with a very small percentage of people who could potentially be qualified. So you're going to have to spend a tremendous amount of work on a low number of people who could transact with you. This is going to be a very high number of people who could transact with you, but a lower number of conversations. Not as much work, more highly qualified conversations. Does that make sense? So these are the types of organic posts where sometimes we're like, I spent so much time putting time and effort into recording, editing, etc. It got 300 views. But who cares? Because it was the right piece of content to actually go after the avatar, and you can repurpose that by asking Mark Zuckerberg to please show this to more people who are thinking about buying or selling a home at $700,000 or $800,000 in my particular neighborhood. Does that make sense? You guys with me? When we run these as ads, your conversion content should always have a next step, meaning a call to action. So that should be, hey, DM me if you need this mortgage calculator. DM me for a list of homes between 7 to 800,000. If you want inbound DMs, this is such a critical part that I see people like take an existing post, toss it up and have zero call to action, and they're like, where are my DMs? I'm like, well, are you offering them something in exchange for DMing you? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, that's the one thing that you should take into consideration is there's got to be some type of offer or incentive for them to actually start the conversation with you. So if you have a piece of content that doesn't have a call to action in the actual video, it's all good. You can just add it in the actual caption itself. Don't worry about adding it to the video. Just add it in the caption itself. If the video is intriguing enough, people will actually read what's in the caption and they can request it there. Okay?